Hi, this is Lawton Steele. Why is it that prims don't always line up even though we have grid settings set correctly, we use snapping points, and the sizes seem to be correct? Well, it's because the sizes are not correct. Why is that? If we have our sizes matching the grid unit and we're snapping, why don't they match up? It's because positions are in the center of the prim, and you're actually dealing with half sizes and not the whole size, because when you move two prims together on an axis on snapping points, if their sizes are correct according to each other, they will match. If they are not, they won't. It's because these half sizes from the center towards the other prim is what matters. And so .475 is not going to match up with .5 because you're dealing with halves. Half of 0.5 is 0.25. Half of 0.475 is 0.2375. And so they don't match. What's the fix? Well, you could use subunits and size the prim down to where it matches. But then what you have is a prim that is not a size that's in relation to the grid unit, and you have a prim that changes its position because you had scaled it. The center moves, and you have a position that's not in line with the grid. So both of these go out of alignment with the grid. Let's go back. Press escape and hit Control Z, and let's see. Let me move it. Set this to 475 again. Okay, so now we're back where we were. It doesn't line up. The next thing we could do is just move it with the snapping. But again, if we do that, our position is out of whack, but our size stays in relation to the grid. So that still puts one thing out of whack from the grid, so it's not going to work. I mean, it will if you don't care about position, but if you do care about position being in line with the grid, in the grand scheme of things, then you want to do something else. And that something else is just simply resizing the prim so that it does match up. Now you could just set it for 0.5 and be done with it because it was at 475 anyway. You're only changing the size by 0.025. And there you have your match. So it's just a matter of setting it to the nearest number that's going to cause it to match the other prim while it's at the snapping point. Now if I were to set this to, let me change this. If I set it to 0.3, it's still going to match. Let me select this one. It's still going to match with this one just fine. So you need to make a decision. What matters to you? Do you want subunits? Do you care about positions? Do you care about sizes? If not, use subunits. But it may come to haunt you later when you're building and you're trying to align things and suddenly you can't use a position because it's some oddball position that you caused by resizing a prim, or it's some oddball size that you caused by resizing the prim. Either one of these things is going to cause issues. If you build with the grid, it doesn't matter what setting you use, you can still have the same problem because of the math that goes into getting two halves of a prim to match together with your grid unit setting. It's always going to happen no matter what. So you could start building using the grid, using the methods I've showed you, and you could use the shift drag as I've showed you, but you're still going to run into the same problem. Even though you're snapping, eventually you're going to run into a situation where two prims do not match up because of size, and you're going to have to correct it. And the best way to do that is to do it as it happens. So we're going to try and get to that point as we're building here. Okay, here we go. So now we have this situation where we have a mismatch. And again, it's because of the half and the half. They don't match up. The most likely thing to do, or the thing that makes the most sense, is to take the prim that doesn't match, that we just created, and resize it to match what's existing. Because if you start going back and resizing things, you're going to cause big problems. So you want to resize the one you just created. So at least that's my opinion. So I just set it for something else that's in relation to this one, like maybe 5 even, and try to snap that, and it works. And you just continue from there. So when you run into those situations, you have to adjust them on the fly as they happen. You have to be mindful and watchful, and if you do that, you'll be fine. Those things will always happen, no matter what rules you use. Also, one other tip that I wanted to show you is that you can adjust the decimal precision in the Firestorm viewer. I have it set for 3 right now, which means I'll have 3 decimal points in my values in my edit tool. If I adjust it up to something else like 6, I'll have 6. Notice what happened when I just did this. This changed. Did you see that? If you set it for 3 or less, whichever you want, you will not have the anomalies that you normally would if you had it set for more decimal points. It will round up where it's supposed to. This used to be a big problem with building, where it would change. Sorry, my cat is sneezing if you can hear that. It would change according to those decimal points, and you would have 47 would be 46,999 instead, just as you saw with the size. Let's change it back to 6. Those floating point values are rounded up when you change the precision. So that will be helpful for your building. You won't have as many issues with that. And that also helps with the rotation, which sometimes creeps in. And it doesn't happen so often, or even at all, if you have a lesser number of decimal points that you're dealing with. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.